And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the McShin Foundation's award-winning recovery podcast, Get in the Herd. Today, we get in the herd with Cricket over here and Kyle. Back to the show. We're going to talk today about some of the exciting things that we got moving forward with the jail programs that we've got going, the recovery programs that we got going on, and also talk about the importance of those recovery programs. Kyle, I know you and I both share the experience of having gone through a McShin Recovery Pod program in the past. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's good to be back.
Good to be back. And I know Cricket. Did you experience a McShin Recovery Pod?
I did.
You did. So now you experienced the Recovery Pod, and now you are the director of recovery jail programs.
Yep.
That's quite an incredible twist right there. So
you're telling me.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the show, Cricket. What's going on right now? What are we doing? New stuff's coming up, I understand.
Yeah, well, new stuff, and then we got some new stuff coming in, and we got some old stuff coming back to life. With the COVID pandemic, most of our institutional access was it ceased to exist. I mean, we it's been 16 months since we've been in RSW Regional Jail, but we've been granted access as of July 1st to go back in there and recreate our program that we started there in 2018. Kyle's familiar with that program.
Yeah,
Kyle,
absolutely.
Kyle, talk about what it means to be in that program and your experience with that program.
Well, all right. So when I first went to that program, when I first got locked up, I was acting a fool, catching charges and doing dumb shit. And then I heard from somebody, they were like, man, you should go to this drug program if you want to go somewhere different, because they got donuts and they watch movies. And I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm going to apply to go join that drug pod. And, I got put in there, and like within 2 weeks of being there, man, like it changed my life. Like the lady that goes in there, Miss Diana, that bless her heart, because that woman, she is freaking awesome. And like I said, within 2 weeks of being in there, man, like the stuff you hear and the stuff you're around and the stuff that they teach you, like, because at that point I didn't see any other way of life for me. I was always going to be a drug addict. I was always going to get high. I didn't see any other pathway or any other way for me to get clean. But being around, Miss Diana, the other people that comes in, Cricket, like they say, it gave me my shot of hope being in there, and kind of taught me that there's a way out of that life. You don't have to be a drug addict you ain't got to sell drugs the rest of your life. And just being around all those people. And when I was there and when Cricket was there, man, we had a good group of people. There was a lot of recovery going on in that little, block that we had going. And, I ended up getting a scholarship, which was great. Miss Diana fought for me tooth and nail. So did Cricket, man. I got that scholarship, and I was doing so good in that program. And I think in January, right before the COVID pandemic hit, I got transferred to DOC.
January of last year, 2020.
Yeah. Right before the pandemic hit, I got transferred to DOC. And it was a shock. It was a reality check, because as soon as I got to prison, and I'm not going to lie to you, when you're in a recovery setting and you're around your network and you're around people that are like-minded and want to do the same shit, you don't think about getting high, and you're good. You got that group of people there. As soon as I got to prison, as soon as I got put in that cell, it was like, what do you want? You know what I mean? I got this, I got that, and I ended up relapsing, and I ended up getting high through my whole prison stint. And I was grateful that I got that scholarship, because if I didn't have that when I got out and I wasn't able to come here, God knows what would have happened, because I left prison. The day I left prison, I was high.
Yeah. So you mentioned the scholarship, and so for anybody listening and who doesn't understand, Cricket, can you explain and tell us what it is that these scholarships are and how that comes to be?
I can, yeah. So in 2018, the McShin Foundation was awarded a SAMHSA grant called B Corps, Building Communities of Recovery. And it's a 3-year project that we were funded for to start 2 new jail programs that weren't already in existence. The jail that he was incarcerated in, RSW Regional Jail, is in Front Royal. And there was another jail that we included on this project, Riverside Regional Jail in Prince George County. And with this project, there were 20 program scholarships for our intensive residential 28-day program that we have here at McShin. We've had it for years. And we were blessed with the opportunity to be able to give away 20 of those program scholarships away per year for those 3 years. Kyle, he definitely earned his scholarship. It wasn't given to him. He basically, it's not a really intense criteria to be selected for a scholarship, but sometimes like the basic stuff that was required is still hard for most people to do. But Kyle met all the criteria that made him eligible for it. Now, I want you to understand, like these scholarships, like 20 scholarships, that sounds like a lot of scholarships. But amongst our jail programs, like the year that he was granted his, it was over 500 participants, or incarcerated individuals that were vying for those scholarships.
Wow.
So selection for those 20 isn't the easiest thing to do, because, oftentimes way more than those 20 meet the criterion to gain eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, he seemed to be going above and beyond while in the program at RSW. So that's how he got his scholarship.
Yeah. So what is the criteria? So walk us through what the program actually entails. So I know that individual. So, I was in a little tiny, Fauquier County, tiny little cell, tiny little block. We didn't even call them pods. It was 10 people in there. So, but I know for the bigger pods, what happens during the day? How does the group work together? What do they learn? Who are the facilitators going in?
So if it's all right with you, I'll tell you like my experience.
Please.
The drug pod that I came through, and it kind of lead us into what these current drug pods look like. So in 2015, I was incarcerated in Pamunkey Regional Jail. They'd never really had any kind of substance use program before. The McShin Foundation entered January 5th of that year, and they kind of offered it to the general population. There was a 30-man program pod, and they basically pulled 6 people from each pod and put them in this program pod. So when I get in there, and I'm like, Kyle, like I signed up because they told me they were putting a big screen TV in there with the DVD player. And
you wanted the TV, he wanted the donuts.
I wanted all of it.
Yeah.
Like I was currently like in Pamunkey Regional Jail, and the pod I was in, it was an 18-hour lockdown every day on a rotating shift. So you're never out at the same time every day. So it's like hard to like get accustomed to doing your time, like when you never know what your time is going to look like until the day is here. So like I heard open dorm, that gets me out of this cell. Mm-hmm. I heard big screen TV with a DVD player. That's pretty cool. Like I'm in jail and y'all going to put a big screen with a DVD player. That's awesome. I heard like donuts and barbecue and coffee, which the jail didn't provide. Otherwise, like I heard all these things, man. And I'm thinking, shit, where do I sign? Put me in there, man.
Yep.
So I get in there, and I was one of the first 6 that was put in that 30-man pod. And over the next couple of days, they filled the beds up. And so I guess like what they refer to us as like the founding fathers, we were the inaugural group. And Nathan, like I was in that pod, and like I really didn't know like if recovery was real. I really didn't know if recovery was possible for someone like me. I really didn't even know if I deserved it, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you what I experienced. I got all that stuff. I got the big screen with the DVD player. They brought in what's the thing called where you rent movies from? Redbox.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They brought in Redbox for us once a week. We got donuts once a month, or something like that. They gave us coffee every Monday morning. I got all that stuff that I signed up to get. I wasn't no longer locked in the cell 18 hours a day. But when I was in there, man, like these people were coming in and they were peers, they were in there and they were offering peer recovery support services. And what that means is that, these people that are coming in and talking about recovery, they didn't learn about it in a book. They'd actually were in recovery themselves. They'd walked in my shoes and were now walking in nicer shoes. So it became the things they were saying became attractive to me. And when they became attractive to me, I'm like, Kyle, I got that little glimmer of hope. Hold up. If they can do it, shit, maybe I can. I don't know. Let me start listening some more and see if I can, get down with this shit or not, you know. And the biggest thing that I experienced in that pod while I was in it, first of all, not only did it save my life, it changed my life. I haven't been incarcerated since I got out of that pod in 2015. And up until that point, I had been incarcerated 64 times, like I'd always been incarcerated.
64 times.
In and out of jail.
Wow.
The longest I'd ever made it on the streets was 4 months. My average was about 6 weeks. So I've been out now for over 6 years. So I attribute that to this substance abuse program in the correctional setting. And so the biggest things that pod offered me was the peer recovery support services that I'd never heard of, and the shot of hope that I had never gotten. And I stand firm on this. The biggest ingredient of what affected me the most in that pod is, for once, out of all those times of doing time, like I was humanized. Like, these people that were coming in, that were running the program, they treated me like I was a human. They didn't treat me like I was an inmate. They didn't talk to me like I was an inmate. They talked to me like I was a person who suffered from substance use disorder and who could get into recovery if he chased it like he chased his addiction. Yeah. And they talked to me like I'm talking to you right now. And they talked to me like I talk to my participants. You know, they didn't talk to me like they were a teacher, a preacher, a professor, or a counselor. They talked to me like they were my peer. And it made me feel like, damn, these people care, you know, and maybe I'm not an inmate. Maybe I am a human. Maybe I am a person just like them. And in my mind, like, I had ingrained in myself that I was hopeless. I was a failure. I was an inmate. You know, I was a convict, and that's what I was going to always be. And these people came in from the McShin Foundation. They humanized my experience in that pod. So, say all that to say this: when they hired me to manage this grant, I had to develop, create, implement, hire, train, and operate and oversee these 2 jail programs. And you know, I'm not a good developer, and I ain't a good implementer, and I am not, you know, I'm not the brainchild. So I modeled these programs that I now manage after the same one that changed my life. So at RSW, first of all, that's a unique jail with a unique program. When we started that program in 2018, it was a 60-man pod. It was literally all 60 of the men in that pod were active participants in the McShin substance use program there. So first of all, it's huge. Like, that's to have a whole pod that big with everybody who signed up. Like, nobody was made to come to that program. Like, everybody that signed up to come to that program, you know, it was a really powerful experience. I think Kyle was fortunate to have, you know, experienced that firsthand. I mean, you know, we would come in, we had a variety of facilitators, all of us in long-term recovery from substance use disorder ourselves. A portion of us who had been touched by the criminal justice system at least once in our lives. And you know what, man, Nathan, we just went in there and we humanized them. We went in and we humanized them, and we offered different groups. We did anger management, we did money management, we did communication skills, we did 12-step recovery, we did smart recovery, we did celebrate recovery. You know, we threw it all at them. You know, it's almost like a chef like throws a noodle at the wall and see if it sticks. But the truth is, everything we threw at this pod stuck. Yeah, everything that we offered this pod stuck. It was like, you know, it went great. So that's 2 hours in the morning, 5 days a week, 2 hours in the afternoon, 5 days a week, were facilitated by outside facilitators, McShin staff, or other volunteer facilitators that are local to that area up there. Some of them, one guy has 50 years in sustained recovery. He was a weekly Wednesday facilitator. And you know, we just go in and we'd offer our experience, strength, and hope. Yeah. And while we're not in there, they do self-led groups. And the rules that were implemented were rules that were agreed upon and created by the participants in the program with guidance from McShin staff. I mean, it's really unique, but not hard to mimic thing. Like, I think everybody should do one.
Yeah, and so that actually leads to a question that Patrick asks up here. He says, what is the process to get these programs into jails, into more jails, really? Also, how do we facilitate transfers from other jails to jails that offer drug pods or people serving DOC sentences and can be housed anywhere? So yeah, so what can we do to get, like that's a really good question, Patrick. How do we get people into those jail programs who aren't in jails that offer these programs?
I'll start with because first of all, my hat's off to you for being able to read that. But
we're gonna get a bigger TV.
But I'll tell you this, Patrick. My experience, like that, as far as transfers to other jails, for jail programs, I did it myself the year before McShin started the program at Pamunkey, and it was a whole process. I had to write the sheriff of the county of the jail that I wanted to go to, which was Henrico. I wrote that sheriff a letter. I wrote his major of programs a letter. I wrote our captain of programs at Pamunkey Jail. I wrote our superintendent, and then I kind of did it on a humbug, man. And I, my bargaining chip was, look, y'all don't offer no programs here. Y'all clearly see I need some help with my condition.
Did it on a humbug.
I did.
Love that.
I really did. I didn't think in a million years they'd transfer me there.
Yeah.
But I used this is how I did it. I used the fact that we didn't have a program at the jail I was at as a justifiable reason to get a transfer to this other jail. And it really, this other jail, it had a really good program. To my knowledge, it still does. But I didn't want to go for the program. I wanted to go because I didn't like the jail I was in.
Yeah.
And I got to the jail and I did good. I liked the program. I did good in it. And then when I got out of that jail, I was locked back up within a month and a half, as typical. And when I got locked back up in that jail, I tried to put in for a transfer again because I nailed it last time. And I'm thinking, that's now I got two bargaining chips. Y'all don't have a program. And remember last time I did really good when y'all sent me over there. And then that's when they came to me and said, we would transfer you. However, we're getting ready to start a program in January of next year. And we'd like for you to give that a try first. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So Patrick, them transfers, man, it's all administrative stuff. It all depends on really bed availability and how you can sweet talk the admin at the jail you're in and the jail you want to go to. Yeah. Now, as far as starting up jail programs, man, it's kind of tricky. I'll be honest with you. It's kind of tricky, and it ain't hard, but the tricky part is getting a jail or the administrator of a jail to agree to allow it. First of all, we're peers, In other words, we're all, those of us at McShin who provide peer recovery support services, we are in recovery from addictions ourselves. And some of us do have criminal history, especially me. And when we try to go to a sheriff or a superintendent of a jail and say, hey, you should let us in, man, our programs really, really work. It's kind of messed up, man, but it's two parts. It's two parts to their concern. First of all, hold on, man. Weren't you locked up here a couple of years ago?
Yep.
Second of all, you're a drug addict. You just don't use no more. And you want me to let you into the jail to teach people how to not be a drug addict anymore. And there's that part. And then there's the part where, let's face the facts. Like, when we treat the underlying cause of our criminal justice activity, we reduce the recidivism. And when we reduce the recidivism, we affect a lot of things with the institutions that we're trying to help the population in.
Yep.
And it's hard to get like all admins of a jail or prison to agree to that.
Yeah, and I'm on a lot of, where I'm in a lot of spaces where the police or the sheriffs, are also in the spaces, and we're talking about substance use disorder, and constantly amazed at the, we can't arrest our way out of addiction by being said by the same people who continue to try to arrest our way out of addiction.
Yeah.
And it's pretty frustrating. Pivoting over here, because I have a question for you, and I think you probably know this too, and I know you know this, but we take this podcast and we put it onto the tablets in I think 48 different institutions across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we don't know where they're actually going, and it's something I want to figure out. But the people that are in these, that are watching this may not necessarily be in a recovery pod. So you have the most recent experience with this system. What is the difference between, being in a, general population pod versus being a McShin pod? And what do you say to the people who might be listening right now? The benefits, what are the benefits? Aside from, of course, the big screen TV with the DVD player, the donuts and the coffee. I mean, those are good benefits. Don't get me wrong.
So the difference between being in a recovery setting or pod in a general is when you're in like a regular pod, you're around a bunch of dudes usually that don't give no shit about recovery. They're trying to do their time. They're trying to make wine. They're trying to gamble and fucking waste time. You know what I mean? And you're not gonna, everybody does their time a little bit differently. I mean, if you're reading your Bible and studying and doing, that's one thing. But if you're a drug addict and you're a regular pod and you have the opportunity to go to a recovery setting, man, take it. Even if it's you're just going there to see what it's like, stick around, because like Cricket said, you never know what might stick, man. And it saved my life just going there and being around those kind of people and just opening my ears and listening, because usually you're not going to hear that in a regular setting in a regular pod, man. You're just gonna, a lot of people there. And I'm just speaking for myself, because when I was in a regular pod, I was just wasting my time. I was trying to find stuff to do to waste my time, and I wasn't doing anything to better myself. When you're in a recovery setting, everything they do in there is to try and help you better yourself, and they're giving you tools that you can take with you and you can learn, and teaching you a new way of life, man. So even if you are only going there for the damn donuts and TV, just make that effort, because you never know what might stick. You might hear something that might save your life.
Timothy Covington, who is up here, he's put two comments up there. The first being, great programs, McShin, Trinity, LPod. It brought me to recovery, brought Timothy to recovery. I know, Timothy, welcome back. And Timothy, you also put in there the donuts and John Shinholzer. So I know you've been away for a few minutes. John's lost what, 60 pounds? Something like that?
A lot, man. He looks like a whole new dude.
He looks like a half a whole new dude.
He looks like he lost a whole dude.
He looks like he lost. Yeah. There's no more stopping at Hardee's on the way to lunch.
He's doing good, man.
But Timothy, great to see you, man. I know that you've experienced, your own share there, and I'm grateful that you are I know where you are as program wise goes, and you're in a good place right now too. Now the transition from, where we are in the jail program to, utilizing that scholarship to come into intensive recovery housing, and then up to step up housing. How has what has happened for you in the jail program prepared you for what happened in the intensive and what's continuing to happen now in your recovery? And what can we do better? What's missing?
It's being in the jail program. We had the facilitators come in and they'd teach us different stuff. But a lot of when you get down to the real emotions and stuff, came when we were in there by ourselves and running our own groups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had people in there, and it was awesome, because you think, hey, the facilitators are gone, we're going to just bullshit our way through this. That never happened, not one day. Everybody in there, and like I said, when I was in there were some great guys, man. And we got down to getting down to our emotions, and we'd go through the book by ourselves, and we'd run these classes and start building our recovery on our own without anybody else telling us what to do. We learned how to do it by ourselves. And that kind of prepares you when you come here, because I mean, when you come here, you're doing the classes and you got people that are telling you what to do, but you already have that knowledge of what you need to do and what you have to do. Because I mean, when you're in a class and you're learning stuff and you got people telling you what to do, I mean, that's all good and well, but what are you going to do when you go home?
Right.
What are you going to do when you get back to the house? Are you going to read the book? Are you going to do your step work? Are you going to do all these things? And it really prepares you for coming here to the intensive program. So I mean, and what can we do better, man? To be honest with you, everything that I learned has worked for me. This program has worked miracles in my life, and I'm only speaking for myself. I can't see in my whole circle of doing this how it could have been better for me, because I'm doing great right now, and I love doing these classes still. It's I just
Yeah. How are you? You say you're doing great. What are your frustrations? What's causing you anxiety now, or what's causing you joy right now? What's bringing you joy now? Because so to tell your story a little bit, you went through the 28-day intensive program,
yeah,
and now you've been in the step up for what, about a week and a half or a week now?
about 3 days, 4 days.
That's it.
3 days, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Time around here is warped for me.
Yeah.
All right, well, so you've just stepped up in the step up housing. You're currently a McShin employee.
Yeah,
and starting to make your way through. How has the transition been from the step up into the step up?
It's great. It was a little scary because you get a little bit more freedom, and when you get that freedom to where, now granted, I work 5 days a week. I get off at 4:00, but now usually I'd have to go back to the house and you can't leave. Now I can leave and go do what I want. And it messes with it in addict's mind. It's like, well, now I can get out of here and, maybe go get something to eat or go hang around with some kind of, but, being in this program and being around all these kind of people and being in this setting, that's what I love most about this is you always got people here that are going to hold you accountable. You're never around anybody that's going to tell you anything wrong. You know what I mean? Living in the step up housing, the house I'm in's got some great guys. There's always somebody to give you advice or somebody you can learn from. You're not around, any bad situations unless you put yourself in one. And the good thing about it is the people around here don't like to they're not going to let you put yourself in a bad situation,
Cricket, you when you came to McShin, were you at Scott House at the intensive house?
We didn't have it.
Okay.
We didn't have that. Well, we didn't have that particular house back then. But no, I came straight into a sober living house my first time in McShin. It's my first time in recovery. This is my longest time in recovery, though, and definitely my most fruitful. I have been in sustained recovery for about 4.5 years now. My life is exactly what they told me it would be like, if not better. Glad I stuck around this time. But I think what was important for me that first time, like when I was first released from incarceration, I left the drug pod and I went to intake and I packed my stuff and I dressed out. And there was a McShin person waiting for me in the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And I left the jail and I came to McShin. And that was my first experience with recovery. That was my first experience with recovery residing. That was my first experience with a real program. And I was able to put together almost 16 months in recovery just that first time, So I think I heard you ask Kyle, like, what could we do better? I think that's something that we could always improve on, is that not wasting too much time between getting released and getting into housing. Like, I know for me, those other 63 times that I got released, like sometimes I'd make it a couple of hours before I, drink or do some drugs. Sometimes I'd make it a day, but not often. Most of those times, like, I'd instantly, like, as soon as I'm out that gate and I'm with me, who is my own worst enemy. Like, typically I'm already planning,
what you just brought up is one of my biggest resentments towards not McShin, but towards the entire process. Because when I was released and I had spent 50 days in the jail program in Warrenton in Fauquier County, and my judge sentenced me to complete the program, and that was it. So that right off the bat set up some things there for me. But when I went to check in with my probation officer that day, they told me, you can't go down there for 45 days until we can transfer the stuff. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do for 45 days? What is, and so we had to fight. And what I did was I had the McShin, staff I was working with up there at the time, they helped me fight for that to get down here sooner. And it took a week for me to get down here. So, and in that week, there was a volunteer up there, Charlie Brooks, man. He's one of my heroes, man. He's about as much time as John, if not a little bit more. he basically took me under his wing and said, we are going to take care of you, because if it left to my own devices, the person who came to pick me up that day was the same person who called the police on me to go back to jail that time. And the same person I had used with, right before. And I wasn't making good decisions. I had some tools, but I wasn't using them right off the bat. I didn't know how to use them still.
Mm-hmm.
And, getting out and having that person pick me up, I had drugs offered to me in the parking lot of the jail.
Naturally.
In the parking lot of the jail. And I froze because I had, I got out. My story is, I got out of jail. I walked across the street to the McShin office, which was right there. Checked in, said hello. All right. See you in a few days. I'm gonna go get my stuff. Go have sex. All the things you do right after you get out of jail. And I go meet my friend, I use the word friend,
Mm-hmm.
and right there in the parking lot. And I'm like, no, I don't want this. I know where this is going to take me, and I saw a little bit of hope in something better than myself in that program. I went into that program. Simply, for me, there was a pizza party the next day, and I was keen on that pizza party, but I went in that program simply because the people in there were smiling and happy every time I went to an AA or an NA meeting in the jail, and the people I was living with were, beating up on each other. So for me, I was like, I'd like to go where the people look happier. I don't know anything about this recovery nonsense, because for me, it was just like, all right, well, I'm not the problem. The problem is everybody else. I just did too much for this, or I just got caught. The cop lied, all that stuff. It wasn't until I was with people who held me accountable, but also showed me myself, helped show me myself that, I could look at that and say, wow, okay, not only can I own up to what I've done, but I can go past that and still become an acceptable, responsible, productive member of society. And that's the hope for me, because like I at that point, when I first got there, I thought I was done. I mean, I just didn't want to. I'm 40 years old, I'm a felon. What do I have to offer anybody in life now? And showing me that I actually do. So I get out, and here I am still making a bad choice, getting in the car with somebody, and I froze. And I said, you know what? Just pull over. And I got out of the car and I went right back into the McShin office. No plan. I wasn't going to see them for a week. No plan. I said, I don't know what to do. I need help. And they did, and for me, I'm going to get teary-eyed just thinking about it. But for me, it's like if that door hadn't been unlocked, like if there hadn't been anybody in that office, I absolutely would have stayed in the car, and I absolutely wouldn't have got high that day. And who knows where I would be right now. And so having that available is so freaking powerful. That bed-to-bed transfer, that warm handoff, because we don't have enough of that available. We don't have enough resources here to do the people that we're trying to help, that we need to help, and we need more of that. Yeah. So anyway, back to what's the comments here. I'm sorry, Michael Mitchell, no relation to me, says faith in God has been the biggest connection in recovery for me. Thank you all for educating the community on the program. You all inspire all over the country. Michael, I don't know where you are, but man, I appreciate you commenting, and glad to see you on the show. Patrick Jones says, Kyle, get your gym pass.
I'm working on it. I'll call my sponsor.
Oh, geez. Patrick again says, what does he say? Cricket came to live in the then Dumbarton house in 2018 for a week. OG McShinite. Funny story. So I was a house leader at a house right after Cricket was house leader. So we were. I was his assistant house leader for a little bit. So that was a good time. I remember some of the people in that experience there. It was fun. But anyway, Michael Mitchell's in Baltimore. Carly Rose says, "Hey Nathan, good to see you, Carly. What are you looking forward to now that you're out in recovery?" And I just saw some important paperwork you posted on Facebook. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I've got so much to do, and I'm thankful to the staff here, because when I got out, I was able to get Medicaid right away. I was able to get my food stamps. I got a DMV appointment. I've got all this stuff. And my one biggest worry, which is I'm sure something for all of us, of course, we're getting out of jail. We're on probation. and we got to check in with a PO, or we got to do color code, or we got to worry about. And I had experience like yours. When I got out, I wanted to come straight here. I called my probation officer and said, I'm going to McShane. He said, no, you're not. You got to come in, do intake. We got to do your transfer paperwork. You can't go right away. I'm like, do you realize I'm around the same stuff? But and that probation officer turned out to be really good. It's just the system. They got to follow a set of rules, and that's they need to work on that.
But that's just that set of rules is literally killing people.
Exactly.
Those first 2 weeks right out of jail or prison are the most. You're at the most vulnerable time of potential for dying of an overdose.
Exactly.
The drugs are stronger, your body's weaker, or your tolerance is weaker.
Absolutely.
So it's effed up thinking. It's really effed up thinking.
But that's an addict, But so a week ago, because I told my probation officer I was coming here, I had about a week into here. I called him. I was like, hey, I'm doing good. He was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go over all your paperwork and then just call me in a week and let me know how you're doing. Got somebody to type up a letter to send to him, to email him, letting him know I was doing good. And then I called him back. I was like, hey, I'm just checking in, what's going on? He said, oh, I was meaning to call you. He said, by the way, your probation has expired. Your probation ended in, I think it was, what was it, June 12th or something like that. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're doing good, and since you didn't catch no charges while you were incarcerated in prison, and you've been doing good, you're at McShin, I see that you're getting a job on staff and all this kind of stuff. He's like, we're just gonna, your probation's done. And that, to me, that was like the happiest and scariest moment of my life, because I'm like, holy shit, I'm not under supervision from anybody. I can go anywhere I want. I can leave the state. I ain't gotta worry about catching probation violations.
Woohoo!
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, because I've been on probation the last 10 years. I've always had to piss in the cup for somebody, call in to check in every week with somebody. Somebody's been over my head. I've had to worry about all that kind of stuff for the last 10 years. And it's like, for them, and my probation officer sent me that letter and said, you're doing great, man. Keep doing great in the future, and good luck. And it's like, I've never been told that by a probation officer. Usually it's like, hey, dude, you freaking pissed dirty last week. Do you want to go to jail? That's been my experience with probation officers. And it's like, man, it was such a blessing, because if I wasn't around such good people like this, and if I wasn't in this program and my probation officer was to tell me, dude, you're not on probation no more, my first instinct would be like, well, I'm hitting the road.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
How much money I got in my wallet, I'm spending it all. You know what I mean? That's why it's such a blessing I'm here and around these people, because, that addict thinking, man, being off probation, not being unsupervised, it's like, it was scary. Like I said, it was the happiest and scariest moment of my life. But now, I can use that to my benefit. I don't have to be on supervision. I don't have to be supervised. So now I have a little bit more freedoms, but I need to use those freedoms the right way. I don't need to run and go get high. Now I can, if I want to get a job working more than 50 miles away from where I stay, I can do that. If I want to get there's endless possibilities. I just have to use that in the right way. And that's what this program and the people around me do, man. They give me experience. They give me suggestions, so I don't have to go out and do the wrong thing.
Cricket, I know you got a lot of good stuff going on in your life. You have what, like 9 cars at this point?
I'm down to 2.
2? All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cricket 1, Cricket 2. That.
Yeah. Cricket R and Cricks.
Cricket R and Cricks. What has recovery given you?
Man, everything that I'd ever dreamed of and more, and some things that I didn't even know I could get. My kids, I have twin boys. They're 10.
Well, wait, hold on a second now. You said that you spent maybe a total of 6 weeks at a time out of jail. So you had time. You had time to have kids at that in this.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Who are absolutely the biggest blessing that I've ever received in my life. And, I gotta be honest with you, before I got into recovery, like I was either locked up or I was chasing dope all day. So, being active and involved and caring father, that wasn't number one on my priority list. And my kids really didn't know what to expect from me, except for that I probably wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And now it's pretty cool, man. Like that for years now, they've not only been able to count on me, but they trust me. They depend on me. They can rely on me, and they look up to me. It's like I'm their hero, man. It's pretty cool. I didn't never think that relationship would exist or could exist, and it's definitely a beautiful thing, man. If you don't have kids, man, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but if you do, you definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got a little one, man.
Yep.
Oh God, it just gets better and better and better, man. But man, Nathan, first of all, like recovery has kept me out of the criminal justice system. Recovery has given me an opportunity to like myself, love myself, work on myself, and and somehow by default, that's made me spiritually capable of helping other people like me find a new way of life, like it was done for me. And I'm no longer like living in cell block G, bunk 29. I'm no longer living on. I'm no longer couch surfing, stay or sleeping in a car in a parking lot, or no longer even in like a recovery residence. Like I've got my own house. Last 2 years ago was the first time I ever had my own place. It's the first time I ever signed a lease. It's and that's at 38 years old. And I stayed there for a year. I moved into a nicer house. I've been there for a year now, and then this weekend I'm moving into another house. It's nicer. They keep getting better and better. Like in 3 years, I've had 3 houses that I paid for on my own.
And you got a big screen TV you don't have to share with a whole bunch of other people.
I definitely
Some
do.
people, but not
It's a new definition of a step-up house.
Almost the biggest one they can sell, man. It's pretty cool. Like I pay all my bills early.
Well, wait, what?
I do. It's whoever thought. Yeah, who would ever thought that would have, first of all, been possible. Second of all, been something that I would enjoy doing, but I do. And not only am I out of the criminal justice system, but I'm allowed to go in and out of any jail and prison, in the country whenever I want to, COVID pending, of course. Which, earlier when we began, you brought up that we had some new stuff cooking, and we do, man. And we're all really excited about it. We're getting ready to start a program at Richmond City Jail, and like it's gonna be good, and we're geared up, and I think our anticipated start date is July 5th for that, so it's coming quick.
Yeah, it's quick.
We're putting together a team now, and the whole team, as per usual, the whole team that we're putting together, people in long-term or sustained recovery from a substance use disorder, people that have been there, done that, and we're feeling really good about it.
Yeah. And we're getting close to the hour here, and so I want to ask, finally, as a person who's been in the pods, who's been in jail, what can you do for yourself? I have 2 questions here. What can you do for yourselves? What can you share to the individuals out there to give that hope shot? But also, what can you tell the family members who have individuals who are experiencing incarceration? What can you tell them as a best practice for supporting their loved ones who are in jail?
Man, I'll tell you what worked for me, and it's gonna be some people that ain't gonna be happy about me saying, especially the ones with tablets in their hand right now.
Ooh.
But I love you guys. Don't get it twisted. I do. But what worked for me was the last time I was incarcerated. My family, I put them through hell for decades. Every time I'd get locked up, I'd call them for bail money. I'd call them for commissary money. I'd just fucking be in jail, living my best life off their dime, and they'd be so happy that I'm not dead or overdosed somewhere that they would fall for it and, and send me whatever I asked for. Remember this last time that I was locked up in 2015, well, they gave me nothing. Like they literally cut me off. And, it was hard and it sucked. And I'll be honest with you, parents' families. Like I was mad at mine, and but like I do attribute a big part of my story to my parents finally saying, you know what, man, no more. Like you ain't getting no more, cutting you off. Like if you got to do something better. Like if you start doing something better, then maybe we can come back around. So there's that. Sorry, guys. But that's what worked for me, man. Like for one time, like my time wasn't really all that easy, as far as like people who want to get into recovery themselves or are out there dealing with substance use disorders. Like, look, man, here's the truth, man. It living that lifestyle sucks. And if you live in that lifestyle, it sucks. I knew it sucked. And like the way it was told to me is like, you just got to ask yourself, Cricket, like, are you all right with the results that you have been getting thus far from doing things your way? And like, and when I answer that question to myself, like the answer is no, fuck no. I ain't all right with the results that I've been getting from doing things my way. Like, and then these people come in and I can see that recovery is real and it is working for them. And I can relate to them. Like they know what it's like to put getting used and finding ways to get more drugs or alcohol as their number one priority. They know what that feels like.
Yep.
And they know what being locked up feels like, so, and now they're living these better lives. Some of them are living really amazing lives. And so after I admitted the fact that, nah, man, my way sucks. And after I accepted the fact that, damn, recovery is real and it's working for these people who are a lot like me, then I started getting that shot of hope. Holy shit, man, maybe I'll just get out of Cricket's way for a minute and try it their way just for shits and giggles, just to see.
Shits and giggles.
Yeah, just to see if it works. So my advice is simple. If you're not okay with the results from doing things your way, if you're struggling with addiction or substance use disorder, and like you're tired of it, just look around, man. There's a whole lot of people just like you, and I'm one of them. Kyle's one of them. Nathan's one of them. The guys behind the camera, they're one of them. If we can do it, man, it's real. Recovery's real, and it's worth it every second of it. And if you're tired of your way and you see us doing it our way and it looks attractive, man, just try it our way for a minute, just see what happens.
Yeah.
And of course, the McShin Foundation, we're here. Our doors are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 366 on a leap year. And and the address is right there on the screen. Our number is on the screen too. And look, dude, call us, man. And if you don't know what to do, that's okay. None of us knew what to do until we called the McShin Foundation, or the McShin Foundation was presented to us. Like, it's okay not to know what to do. Call us. We'll help you figure that out.
There was, I forgot because I saw there was two questions from Robert in the comments. One further back up. I saw him earlier. Thank you, Debbie. Good to see you up here.
Hey, Deb.
There you go. Robert Legg says, what percentage of jails and prisons have similar programs? And I think his last question was about the same thing. And would you enter a similar program if you weren't in jail? Those are two very good questions. And I think we should, I skipped him. I'm sorry. I saw it and I forgot to ask that earlier, but I think it's a good question to ask real quick.
And they're both great questions. Hey, Rob. I have absolutely no idea what the percentage is. I know that there's not as many as there should be.
No.
And the majority of jails and prisons don't have them. I do know, though, that in recent years that has started to change a little bit. There are more people being open-minded, getting on board to allowing programs like this in their jails. I wish I could answer you that better, but unfortunately, that's all I got. And if you're asking me, would I enter a similar program if I weren't in jail? I would not have.
Nope.
I wouldn't have. I didn't think like I was cut out for being successful or clean or in recovery or out of jail. And like when I was out, I was chasing the next one. And, I really didn't care about anything except feeding my addiction. And I wouldn't have myself. I would have never entered a program. I would have never entertained the idea of recovery or even believed that there was even a slim possibility of me living better than I was. I thought I was stuck. And if it hadn't have been for that jail program, I would have never known anything about recovery.
Yeah. And I would answer I would answer the same way. I think. Now, I don't live in hypotheticals, so that means I don't exactly know what I would do. But this is a question that keeps coming up over and over again. If there weren't, if you didn't have legal consequences for using, would you find recovery? And I know that's not what Robert's asking, because I think there's another way to do it. And I think the Portugal model, and this is a whole nother episode, I know, but the Portugal model shows that you don't have to arrest people, but you can give people assessments and compassion and demonstrate that recovery is possible without having to cause systemic problems down the line. So Robert, that's a great question. Yeah. And I know we talk a lot offline, and I know kind of where you're going with that question. And I agree, it's a tough one. So any thoughts on that? And then, before we say goodbye,
would I enter a similar program if I wasn't in jail? Absolutely not. The only reason I was able to get clean and get my mind right and actually start to listen and want to do something better is because I got locked up. If I never would have gotten locked up, I never would have stopped geting high. I'd either be dead or I'd, still be ripping and running and doing the same stuff I was doing, and people may not agree with this, but when somebody asked me what was your pathway to recovery, I said, well, my pathway to recovery was the criminal justice system, getting locked up and going to jail, because if it wasn't for me going to jail and getting sober, getting my mind right, I would have never, even thought, hey, let me try something different.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Like I said a few minutes ago, there is an alternative, and I think that's the conversation to continue having. That we don't have those consequences going down the line, and we can actually treat substance use disorder as the public health care crisis that it is, and not through the jails. And how do we do that? And these are questions that need to be answered. That's what Oregon's going through right now. Cambria, this is a friend of yours, I know. Cambria, is that her name?
Cambria,
that's an awesome name, by the way.
She's awesome.
I do want to say thank you all. Is there any final thoughts, any final ideas you want to share with everybody? No, good stuff, man. This is a really, really good show. I get really passionate about the jail programs. It's probably my favorite thing that the McShin Foundation does.
Man, too.
It's where I found my recovery. I know it's where the three of us found our recovery. And, I think that the more we can get into that work, the more, because it's not just people in jail with, possession charges that are in our programs. It's people with all kinds of other co-occurring, mental health issues. Also, other, what's the word I'm looking for? The other charges on top of the simply the possession. So it's important that we continue to address this as a public health care crisis wherever we can. So this is really great work, and thank you both for being here, Kyle and Cricket, and of course Justin and Derek. Thank you guys for being back there producing the fabulous show. All y'all out there watching and listening and asking questions, it's important. Tomorrow, tune in tomorrow, because we got a really cool show tomorrow. We have the Maine Recovery Advocacy Project on the show with one of our participants from Maine, who's going to be here to talk about what's going on in Maine. So a couple important legislation things that just happened up there recently, and some things that might be continuing in a good way, I think. And we'll talk about that tomorrow on the show. So with that, see y'all tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you.
Later.
Here at McShin, we believe in the McShin way, which is authentic recovery support service providers, people with lived experience, bringing that experience to those who need that lived experience in recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in many things to support our mission. We believe in women empowerment.
What I love most about what we believe here at McShin is we believe in the authenticity of the peer-to-peer approach.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in giving people opportunity.
Here at McShin, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
At the McShin Foundation, we believe in helping people reach their full potential.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in multiple pathways to recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in placing principles before personalities to help spread hope.
Here at McShin, we believe that recovery is possible, and that any person seeking recovery can become a more acceptable, responsible, and productive member of society.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in self-discovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in saving lives and offering second chances.
Here at McShin, we believe you can do this.
Here at McShin Foundation, we believe that we can only keep what we have by giving away, which is why we continue to help others like us seek and find recovery.
Any place.